Hello there, you're with NDTV. I'm Maha Siddiqui. Our top story, the Congress party has today protested against price rise. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, along with the rest of the Gandhi family, including Rahul Gandhi, were all out on the streets protesting. In fact, they were later detained and then released from detention by the end of the day. But not before a sharp rebuttal of all the points that they made against the BJP, the rebuttal coming from the party itself.
Priyanka Gandhi Vadra jumping barricades outside the Congress headquarters. But the Congress General Secretary refused to cooperate with the police. They had to physically move her. The Gandhis led the Congress demonstrations with top leaders wearing black to protest against rising prices and unemployment.
हमारा मकसद यह है कि हम इनके मंत्री कह रहे हैं इनको महंगाई नहीं दिखती, तो हम पीएम हाउस तक चल के महंगाई दिखाना चाहते हैं, गैस का सिलेंडर दिखाना चाहते हैं जो आज कोई खरीद नहीं सकता है, इतनी महंगाई है।
Priyanka, her brother and ex-party president Rahul were among the many detained as they tried to march towards Rashtrapati Bhavan and the Prime Minister's residence.
हिटलर भी चुनाव जीत के आया था। हाँ, हिटलर भी चुनाव जीत जाता था। हिटलर चुनाव कैसे जीतता था? हिटलर चुनाव ऐसे जीतता था कि जर्मनी के पूरे इंस्टीट्यूशंस उसके हाथ में थे। उसके पास एसए थी, पैरामिलिट्री फोर्स थी, उसके पास पूरा ढांचा था।
वो हिटलर को कोट कर रहे थे, हिटलर को कितना पढ़ा है याद करिए। अगर तानाशाही इस देश ने देखी है तो कांग्रेस के राज में देखी है। इमरजेंसी के समय जब जजेस सुपरसीड हुए, जब नेताओं को मीसा में बंद किया गया, जब लोकनायक जयप्रकाश जैसे महान नेता किडनी खराब थी उनको भी जेल में बंद किया गया।
Sonia Gandhi attended Parliament, but after protest it was adjourned.
और ये जांच एजेंसियां बिल्कुल स्वतंत्र हैं, अपना काम कर रही हैं और कृपया करके इसमें अवरोध पैदा ना करें। राहुल जी, प्रियंका जी, कृपया करके दिखावा ना करिए, जांच एजेंसियों का सहयोग कीजिए।
However, absent during the protests were the other opposition parties like their own allies, DMK, left parties among others, who they say were not invited.
This has now become the new venue for protests. Congress members of Parliament realize they get better media coverage than in Parliament. Clearly, the focus today for the Congress party was to show resonance with the people on price rise, on unemployment and on the GST. Their focus to continue these protests in the days ahead to explain that the opposition parties are trying to voice the issues of the common persons. With camera person Sudesh and Sanjay Kaushik and Rakesh, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
Meanwhile, Amit Shah, the Home Minister, responded to the Congress's black protest, linking it to the 5th of August when the Ayodhya Temple Foundation stone laying took place, accusing the Congress of appeasement.
कि कांग्रेस ने इसमें हिडन तरीके से अपनी अपीसमेंट की पॉलिसी को आगे बढ़ाया है। आज ईडी ने किसी भी प्रकार का ना किसी को तलब किया है, ना पूछताछ की है, ना कोई रेड हुई है, कुछ नहीं हुआ है। और अचानक ही कांग्रेस ने आज ये कार्यक्रम दिया विरोध का। मैं तो समझ ही नहीं सकता विरोध का कार्यक्रम क्यों आज दिया गया है। और हर रोज जब विरोध के कार्यक्रम होते थे तो अपने अपने ड्रेस में होते थे। आज सभी के सभी लोग काले कपड़े पहनकर करें। मैं मानता हूं कि आज ही के दिन इस देश के प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने राम जन्मभूमि का शिलान्यास किया था। कांग्रेस ने आज का दिन इसीलिए विरोध के लिए और विशेषकर काले कपड़ों में विरोध के लिए सिलेक्ट किया है। और जहां तक ईडी का सवाल है, सभी ने देश के कानून की व्यवस्था का सम्मान करना चाहिए और सहयोग करना चाहिए।
Let's turn our attention now to some other stories. Senior Indian Air Force officers were part of a crucial military meeting with the Chinese side on Tuesday to ensure that there is no breach of the Indian airspace in the Ladakh region. While there has been no immediate incident in the last few days, a Chinese military aircraft did fly within 10 kilometers of the line of actual control in the Ladakh region in the last week of June, resulting in the Indian Air Force scrambling its fighter jets in response. Vishnu has more details.
What has happened now is that on Tuesday, senior Indian Air Force officials were part of military talks in Ladakh on the ground with their Chinese counterparts saying, look, we just cannot afford to have a misunderstanding on a situation like this. Remember, for the last couple of months, the Chinese have been holding very major exercises in Tibet that involves a very large air component as well. They've been upgrading their airfields, as you can see on your screen over there. The bottom line over here is that we don't want the air forces of India and China anywhere close to each other. There used to be a ground rule, it's still there, that don't fly within 10 kilometers of the line of actual control. The problem here is nobody really knows, or the Chinese don't really know where the line of actual control is. That's because it's undefined. But the fact that you've got aircraft in close proximity, India wants to ensure that there is no airspace violence, airspace entry by the Chinese, which is why this is taking place now, these talks.
Moving on, your EMIs and FD rates are set to go up as the RBI has revised its repo rate. That's gone up by 50 basis points now. This is the third rate hike in 4 months.
Expect your loan EMIs and interest rates to go up as the Reserve Bank raised its key lending rate by 50 basis points to 5.4%, back to the pre-pandemic level. The main target is to fight inflation, which has been above the bank's comfort limit of 6% for the last 6 months and is expected to remain so till December.
On the other hand, the Indian economy has naturally been impacted by the global economic situation. We have been grappling with the problem of high inflation. On the assumption of a normal monsoon in 2022 and average crude oil price, that is Indian basket of $105 per barrel, inflation is projected at 6.7% in 2022-23.
This is the third interest rate hike in just 4 months to control soaring inflation. Commercial banks borrow money from the Reserve Bank at this 5.4% interest rate. They add their own rates to this to charge us for our loans. That is why this rate hike means that getting a loan will now get more expensive, while FDs will get more rewarding. In May, before any rate hikes of this year were announced, you had to pay 40 lakh total interest for a 50 lakh 20-year loan from SBI. It went up to 47 lakhs in June after the 2 rate hikes were announced, and it's likely to now go up to over 50 lakh rupees. The EMI stood at over 37,000 and it is now likely to go up to 41,000 rupees. With crude oil prices falling, the Reserve Bank also expects edible oil prices and supply concerns to soften. While the Reserve Bank is confident about India's economic growth, retaining its forecast for this year at 7.2%, it defended the rupee slump.
The rupee depreciation has happened in an orderly fashion thanks to the stated policy of RBI and thanks to our steady improvement in the market to prevent volatility. So rupee depreciation has happened in an orderly fashion, and rupee has depreciated by 4.7% against US dollar till yesterday, and it has fared much better than several reserve currencies as well as many emerging market currencies as well as many of our Asian peers.
The Reserve Bank's rate hike comes at a time of piling economic worries. Inflation has been above RBI's comfort level for the entire year. Rupee hit record lows of 80 per dollar. Trade deficit is at a record high. Forex reserves are at a near 2-year low. Recession fears are looming in major economies. And lastly, decade-high rate hikes have been announced in the United States and in the United Kingdom. They've also added to the worries and pressures of the Reserve Bank. With these conditions continuing, more rate hikes cannot be ruled out. Priyanka Sharma for NDTV.
The Maharashtra Cabinet expansion is finally expected to take place next week. This will be after the Supreme Court hearing on Monday, though. Meanwhile, there's still no green signal by the BJP High Command for the portfolios. There's been no ministers inducted into the Maharashtra government of Eknath Shinde and Devendra Fadnavis, which is now 36 days old.
मैं कैसे बोल सकता हूँ? वो तो मुख्यमंत्री साहब का प्रियोगेटिव रहता है, उपमुख्यमंत्री बात करके वो अनाउंस कर देंगे कि किस तारीख को विस्तार हो रहा है.
Well, several CUET UG examination centers across the country suffered technical glitches due to which exams had to be postponed at various centers. The most shocking part was no prior intimation by the National Testing Agency regarding the changes. Neither was there any information shared officially or through any of their means till the time this report was written.
1 किलोमीटर कोई बंदा आता है और वहाँ आके इसको ये पता चलता है कि हाँ एग्जाम पोस्टपोन हो गया, क्या रिएक्शन होगा? सिर्फ बाहर लगा देने से आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि पेपर पोस्टपोन.
व्यवस्था में नहीं है ना सिस्टम में चालू. ये कागज उम्र लेके ग्राउंड लेवल पर कुछ भी नहीं है.
इनके खिलाफ सख्त से सख्त एक्शन लिया जाए.
Students and parents worried, frustrated, angry as the CUET or Common University Entrance Test collapsed in at least 5 centers in Delhi and neighboring Gurgaon and Noida. In West Delhi and Gurgaon, they were met by a short terse note by the center's National Testing Agency. Gudia Jaiswal travelled from Sikkim to Delhi for her daughter's exam. Without any prior intimation from the National Testing Agency, she found out about the postponement at the center.
मैं सिक्किम से आई हूँ बच्ची का एग्जाम दिलाने. परसों ही आई थी यहाँ पे. कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं मिली कि कैंसिल होगा या सर्वर डाउन है, ऐसा वैसा कुछ नहीं था. आज अचानक से थोड़ी देर पहले पता चल रहा है कि सर्वर डाउन है.
अभी भी कोई मेल आया आपके?
कुछ मेल नहीं आया. हम लोग चेक करते आ रहे हैं, कुछ भी नहीं आया है.
Shivani, a candidate travelled from Amritsar to Delhi for exam. Now, with the exam postponed, she is anxious.
दिल्ली.
तो अब आपको मतलब दोबारा 12 तारीख को फिर से एक बार आना
हाँ जी, और 8 को फिर से एग्जाम है. अब शायद वो भी पोस्टपोन हो सकता है जब ये हो गया तो.
In Noida, students were allowed in, but the systems malfunctioned.
क्या ये लोग कंपनसेट करेंगे हमें? पागल है क्या? हम सुबह भी खड़े हैं यहाँ पर. अभी पेपर नहीं हुआ, सेमेस्टर कब शुरू करेंगे ये?
As the parents complained, authorities at the examination center called the police, security guards and even bouncers.
राजस्थान से छुट्टी लेके आया हूँ. मेरी जॉब राजस्थान में. मैं छुट्टी लेके आया कि इसको पेपर करवाना है और यहाँ पे ये देख रहा हूँ.
800 रुपए ले आपको छोड़ने के लिए, फिर 800-900 रुपए लेगा छोड़ने के लिए. और एक तो इतनी ट्रैफिक है कि सुबह ऑफिस से छुट्टी लेके और 8 बजे घर से आदमी निकला है वो. और फिर अभी समय फिर बारिश भी इतनी हो रही है, फिर भीगता हुआ आदमी कैसे जाएगा?
The National Testing Agency in a statement claimed that entrance exam, India's second biggest, was conducted smoothly at over 95% of the centers across the country. The exam is conducted on computers online. And today's experience is not only a setback to students, but also reflects shoddy management is a poor advertisement for a Digital India campaign.
The National Testing Agency is conducting the CUET undergraduate examination for the first time, and while some glitches, some errors were expected, the series of errors and glitches that are being seen right now are not only putting a question mark on the credibility of the National Testing Agency, but putting the career of over 1 million students at stake too. In New Delhi, Bureau Report, NDTV.
Now, web series Panchayat seems happening from day one in some Gram Panchayats of Madhya Pradesh, where Panchayat polls were held last month. Instead of the newly elected women members of the Gram Panchayat, it were their male kin who took oath of office.
मैं शपथ लेता हूँ कि अपने गाँव की दशा बदलने के लिए प्रयासरत रहूँगा.
मैं शपथ लेता हूँ.
Oath taking with a twist in Madhya Pradesh.
द्वारा स्थापित भारत के संविधान.
These men on screen did not fight or win in the just held Panchayat polls. but took oath in place of elected women. At multiple locations across the state, husbands, brothers-in-law, fathers, all seen taking oath. In the Jaisinagar Gram Panchayat of Sagar district in Madhya Pradesh's Bundelkhand region, out of the 10 newly elected women panchayats, just 3 turned up for the oath taking on Thursday. And a brazen defense from this official for the 7 men who took oath.
अति आवश्यक कार्य आ जाने का उनके प्रतिनिधि पति उपस्थित हुए हैं। ऐसा संविधान में उल्लेख है कि पति शपथ ले सकते हैं इतने गंभीर मामले को लेकर। अपन ने बार-बार सूचना दी है, बार-बार हमारे सरपंच साहब उप सरपंच साहब ने प्रयास भी किया है आने का, तो वो आने की बोल रहे हैं और नहीं आए अभी तक।
In the Gaisabad village of the Damo district, Panchayat officials hurriedly administered the oath to women after a video of men taking oath went viral and led to outrage.
ये देश का एक अलग तरह का लोकतंत्र है जिसमें विधायकों की, सांसदों की, जनप्रतिनिधियों की मंडियां लगने लगी है, बोलियां लगने लगी है। पति ने शपथ ले ली पत्नी की जगह, ये मेरे मध्य प्रदेश में संभव है, शिवराज के राज में संभव है। देश के लोकतंत्र को कैसे हत्या की जाती है उसके उदाहरण यही मिलेंगे।
देखिए, इसके बारे में जो जिम्मेदार अधिकारी हैं उनसे बात की जाए तो उचित होगा। इस बारे में संबंधित अधिकारी जानकारी दे सकते हैं।
किसी
बीजेपी का कोई लेना देना नहीं।
We tried reaching the State Election Commission, but they said they have nothing to do with this. Only Panchayati Raj Department can answer. But there also, nobody bothered to respond. In Bhopal, with camera person Rizwan Khan, Anurag Dwari for NDTV.